do you know what your line goal is of your current clubs? And most of them, of course, say no. And that's okay. A lot of people don't know. But we tell them that the line goals of conventional golf clubs are different in the first place. None of them are the same for any of the clubs. So when you're bending them 2 degrees flatter, you're bending them and they're all still different. There's nothing the same about them. So with clubs that are designed to fit the individual, to really put them in the perfect posture for center stance ball position, for line goal at address, that's what we do, with the wrist to floor measurement. And one of the great things too is having clubs that fit you perfectly is that it reduces stress and pressure off the back and spine. A lot of golfers say that, man, I get done and my back hurts. 20-year-olds say that too. They're like, there's no way my back's supposed to be hurting. And generally when you're in a sport that hurts when you get done, a recreational sport, chances are you're doing something wrong, unless it's boxing.
Golf Smarter number 769. Let's shatter some myths and misunderstandings about single-length irons with Matt Lake of One Iron Golf.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Matt.
Hello, Fred. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me today. This is a topic that I am just so interested to discuss with you today because just recently it feels like one iron, single length irons have become part of the conversation. Now, I first heard about single length irons in an episode that we did probably in 2006 or 7 with your dad. So we've talked about one iron golf a long time ago, and actually just recently on our second podcast called Golf Smarter Mulligans, it was episode 76. We brought that back. And once I brought that back, I went, we need an update.
Oh, that is fantastic. Yeah. And he remembers the episode and everything too. And he said, hey, why don't you get your feet wet and see if you can offer any new insights to the public and your show. So it's an honor for us to be a part of your show again, and we really appreciate the time that you provided us.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I have a lot of questions.
Sure.
So let's just start with the concept. What single length irons? I don't even know what to ask. I'll just let you take it from there.
Certainly. Well, the concept of single length irons, single length play, were actually around since the beginning. Back when shafts were hickory shafts and they were custom built when the game was a gentleman's game. It's really nothing new. It's actually how it started in golf club design. Over the years, certainly after that, when it became a gentleman's sport, from a gentleman's sport to the masses and a recreational sport, that's when the mass production model really came out. Hence, our current clubs off the rack now, varying lengths, they have different line goals, all those different things. It was just basically for ease of mass production. And one of the questions that we do get is, well, isn't it easier to mass produce like a 7-iron? And we say, yes, it is. But the problem with that is that a 7-iron only fits about 9% of the total golfing population, which is why we don't mass produce a single iron set. Certainly, years past, Tommy Armour had come out with a set of equal length irons. He based them off a 6-iron length. And again, he ran into the problem of the ease of mass production model. And for us, even to this day, we do not do anything mass production. All of our clubs are built by club builders with 25 years of experience. Back in 2006, not that much of experience, but now after about 25 years later, from the start of our company, we still do that. So there's a lot of things that we can do with the golf clubs, particularly with the shafting, that really benefits the golfer instead of having clubs built on an assembly line, with unskilled labor, basically slapping club heads on sticks, with no regard to shaft flex plane orientation, things like that. So a lot of golfers don't really know what that is anyway, but we do it because we want to make sure consistency. That's the biggest name of the game with single length clubs. They have to be identical in every way in order to promote the greatest degree of consistency in the golf swing. From the 3-iron to the pitching wedge, everything about them has to be identical. The only difference between them, so the club weight is the same, degrees of offset are the same. Obviously, the length is the same. And really what we're fitting the golfer to is through our wrist to floor measurement, we're fitting them to club length, but more importantly, lie angle. And our lie angle for all of our clubs, for our irons, is 63.5 degrees. So all of those things being identical makes it so much easier for the golfer to swing each club with the same swing speed, center ball position. That's what all of our clubs are based on, center ball position, our woods and our driver as well. So by having all those things identical, the only difference is a precise 4-degree loft angle progression so that the golfer has exact distance gapping of 10 yards between clubs. So it makes it very simple. And, a lot of bogey golfers, double bogey golfers, just assume the distance between their 7 and 8 iron is 10 yards. But if you look at the loft angle comparison, that can vary 2.5 up to 7 degrees between one club. So it's really about 4 to 16 yards, and you got to really figure out which one that is between the clubs. So with everything else being identical with the clubs, the only separation is that 4 degree for exact 10-yard gapping. So that's really been the basis of our system, and that's what we do. It just makes it so much easier, less complications, really.
First of all, thank you very much, because I always wondered, how come I'm not getting 10-yard difference between, how come I'm hitting one club like this is 125 and this is 140? Wait a minute, now you're messing with my head here. And I thought it was poor mechanics that was doing that.
No, it certainly could be. I mean,
it probably is. But...
Well, without solid center ball contact, I mean, forget distance, forget accuracy. And the main part of our club design, they're cavity backed, perimeter weighted, is that they're just the easiest to get to solid center ball contact with. That's very important. And the 63.5 degree lie angle really assists with that. So yes, we do wrist to floor measurement fitting. We take a lot into account with that measurement, but certainly that's one of the big inconsistencies. How many times have you been up on a par 3, for instance, and a guy hits his shot and lands it just a yard or two next to the hole, and another golfer comes up.
I'll stop you right there. That doesn't happen very often.
That never happened.
Getting that close to the pin on a par 3. Go ahead.
Somebody doing this, buddies are high-fiving him and everything, and somebody will say, "Hey, what did you use there?" And he's like, "Well, I used my 8 iron." He's like, "Oh, well, I was going to use my 7 iron. I'm glad I asked you. I would have." So he grabs his 8 iron, and he's 5 to 6 yards short of the green itself.
We're in the water, yeah.
Yeah, we're in the water. Yeah, absolutely. And so every manufacturer is different when they have that too. And a lot of people don't really get that. They're like, well, my 5 iron, I can hit this 170 yards. And it's like, well, that's great. But what's the loft angle? And they're like, what? It's like, well, that really helps determine it. And certainly over the years, golf manufacturers have strengthened that loft angle to kind of give you the idea that you're hitting your current 5 iron, further than the other manufacturer's 5 iron. And they've been doing it for so much. That's why 1 and 2 irons are gone. You never really see 1 and 2. And nowadays you're starting to see 3 irons are going away and 4 irons.
Because the popularity of hybrids too, right? The popularity of those clubs.
Well, and that's what they did as a result of strengthening them. So, a number of years ago, that was supposed to be a gentleman's agreement in the golf industry that a 5 iron was going to have a particular loft angle. But a few companies decided to go against that as a competitive advantage. And they said they baked all this technology into their clubs and all this, and, had lasers pointing and, AI and all this other different marketing hype that they did. And really all they did was strengthen the loft angle by about 2 to 3 degrees for that 5 iron compared to the old one. So yeah, you're going to get more distance with a 5 iron that's stronger lofted than a 5 iron that isn't. So that's something that we've tried to not do. And, there are a number of companies, if you look at the loft angles now, compared to what they were 10 years ago, you'll see what I'm talking about. And of course, it's all this new technology built in, and there have been great technological advances in golf club design, absolutely. But, kind of that appearance of, I need to hit my 5 iron, 170 yards. It's like, well, what is the loft angle that you're used to? So a lot of golfers don't really know that too. And, so that's certainly a kind of a bit of trickery in the golf world, and all of them do it too. But we like to have a 3 iron. We like to have, a 4 iron. The hybrids, as you brought up, hybrid clubs are to replace those other clubs. So what they found is by doing that, and they were like, hey, we're making this 3 iron so difficult to hit, not just because the loft is so strong, but the lie angle is very flat. It's about 56, 57 degrees, and that's very flat. So it's not so much the length of it because it's really long. It's all those things combined make it difficult to get to solid center ball contact with. So they looked for an opportunity there, and they came out with hybrids. They came out with hybrids, to get you those distances and things. And realistically, that's what spurned the growth of hybrids, was that, some of these clubs were just so hard to hit, to get to solid center ball contact, people were abandoning them. And we understand. I mean, we see more 3-irons as tomato steaks and gardens than in golf bags on a golf course, So, but that it really helped the hybrid industry, for that, and that's one of the big reasons is the loft angles were just so strong. The lie angle had to be flattened too, and it just made it very difficult. So that's when they came out with hybrids. And it's been great for them too. They love it. They're making more money per club on hybrids than they are a set of golf clubs, set of irons, traditional irons.
Absolutely. We're talking to Matt Lake of One Iron Golf, and we will be back right after this. Yeah, Matt, I play the Ping G yellow dot irons, and I can't tell you how difficult it's been when I want to find out what are the lie angled for these clubs, how hard it is to find that online.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they don't want you to know.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're agreeing with me. Wait a minute.
It really is. And what we love is true transparency. And on our website, if you click into the specifications, you're going to get the exact specifications. The club head weight, the lie angle, which is consistent. The lie angles are all they're all going to be the same. And again, we fit that lie angle to the individual based on their wrist to floor measurement. Because we realized, years ago that, one club length, there's no way that a club length can fit in everybody. Just like a set of golf clubs off a golf rack. Those are designed for someone who's 5'3" and someone who's 6'7". Like, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, And so for us, and my father too, I remember I was in high school at the time. It was a good number of years ago when he came up with the idea. And of course, I was his test bunny. So, and it made perfect sense. I was trying to learn a game, and it's very difficult. It's very, you struggle with it, quite a bit. And that really put a lot of golfers off, when they first start. And we have customers that, are, from 20s up to in their hundreds that are still actually playing our clubs. And a lot of them, when they first start, they say this game is so frustrating because I have to learn so many different things. It doesn't really make any sense. So then once they see our company or hear about it, they're like, hey, I've always thought about that. Why can't I have clubs that are all the same and that they fit me, And so it is a frustrating game to learn for sure. Much more frustrating to master, as a lot of us know. It's very, very difficult. But with manufacturers, what's tough is the specifications. You can certainly find them, but they're not really prominently displayed. And we want to have that. We want to have total transparency of what the lie angle is, what our loft angles are, the progression of our loft angle, our degrees of offset, bounce angle. But realistically, a lot of golfers don't even really know what that is. They don't know what those metrics are. They just, maybe some of them will read it in a golf magazine and say, hey, I've heard my degrees of offset need to be this, or I need a flatter lie angle because of this. And we tell them, well, we read that article too, but do you know exactly what that is that means? Especially with a lie angle, we get asked that, can I have these bent, 2 degrees flat? And I tell them, well, do you know what your lie angle is of your current clubs? And most of them, of course, say no, and that's okay. A lot of people don't know. But we tell them that the lie angles of conventional golf clubs are different in the first place. None of them are the same for any of the clubs. So when you're bending them 2 degrees flatter, you're bending them and they're all still different. There's nothing the same about them. So with clubs that are designed to fit the individual, to really put them in the perfect posture, for center stance ball position, for lie angle at address, that's what we do, with the wrist to floor measurement. And one of the great things too is having clubs that fit you perfectly, is that it reduces stress and pressure off the back and spine. A lot of golfers say that, man, I get done and my back hurts. I mean, 20-year-olds say that too. They're like, there's no way that my back's supposed to be hurting. And generally, when you're in a sport that hurts, it hurts when you get done, a recreational sport. The chances are you're doing something wrong, unless it's boxing, or maybe you're doing that wrong too. I don't know, But the idea that, a tennis player would have 11 different tennis rackets, or a baseball player has 9 different bats for what they're trying to do. It just doesn't really make, a whole lot of sense. Different length bats or different.
I can just imagine a batter coming up with a shorter bat, and they're going, okay, he's just trying to get the ball on the ground, right? He's not going for the fences here. You can't give up to the competition what your strategy is. So you have to play with one bat.
It's funny too, because we hear, it's not the arrows, it's the Indian. But what we always say to them is, well, imagine how accurate an Indian would be with varying length arrows. All right, here you got this big one, here's this small one, for your short shots. Doesn't really seem to work. It's actually, it's the relationship between the equipment and the individual, in whatever it is that they're doing. But realistically, with 11 different irons, that's something that it really surprises people, our customers too, when they purchase our clubs is, of course, you want to take them to the range as you would any new set of golf clubs, to play with all your toys and everything. But realistically, after you take them all there, you only have to practice with one of them.
That's awesome.
Practice with the 4-iron, 5-iron. You're practicing with the rest of them. So,
wow, that's fascinating in itself. Now, are you saying that in the early days of these, all of a sudden, big companies are getting bigger because they're selling more and more golf clubs, but that they went to different lengths because of mass production?
That's correct. Yeah, it was easier to mass produce the set, and that's why golfers. Yeah, how many golfers don't have a favorite iron in their bag? Yeah, every golfer has some favorite iron, and a lot of times that does match with their wrist to floor measurement. Some golfers, it's a 3-iron. Some of these guys, we have ex-NBA players that are over 7 feet tall. That's the club that they like to play with because they're standing upright. They know they can hit it. Now they get this little tiny wedge and they're all hunched over. So for mass production purposes, it was just easier to have one set of varying length, with the manufacturers knowing that there are a few clubs in there that come close to fitting the individual. And so you see that grouping of about 2 or 3 irons that they're like, I know I can hit these on the screws. And that's fantastic. Kind of back to our point earlier about distance gapping with clubs too. If a golfer has a favorite iron, they're going to swing that club a little bit faster than the rest of them. So that swing speed is part of the component of distance. Distance is swing speed, solid center ball contact, and the loft angle of the club that's being used. Those are really the metrics to distance ultimately. So if a golfer knows that they can just nail their 6-iron or nail their 7-iron, they're going to swing that club a little bit faster than they will the club above and below it. So that does kind of mess up distance gapping too. Knowing that they can hit it on the screws, they're going to swing that faster. So with our clubs all being the same, if they can hit one on the screws, they can hit them all on the screws. They're all exactly the same, with the exception of the loft angle. So that's something that's certainly big too. Yeah, because distance control, as we all know, that's huge, especially with wedge play. And we get questions about wedges all the time. Well, hey, these longer wedges, I'm going to have longer golf shots. And shaft length doesn't have anything to do with distance whatsoever. It's a radial arm length equation is really what it is. And so the shaft length doesn't matter. It's those 3 metrics: swing speed, solid contact, and the loft angle of the club. So with wedges, what we tell our customers is, a lot of them are like, well, I've had my wedges, I've played these forever, so I just really want, my long irons, which we don't have long irons or short irons. They say, I'm so comfortable with my wedges, and we tell them, well, that's because you play them all the time. You're playing them too much. It's time to stick those scoring shots, the second shot, the third shot, even the fourth shot, at times, get those scoring shots on the green, and then you're putting, and that's really what we want to do. But with wedges, certainly, what they realize is that they're more accurate with wedges that fit them. Now they can still choke down on them, move the ball position around, if you need to get over a hill, things like that. There's no one right way to chip or pitch, as we know. There's so many different ways. And, I've seen a guy that used his 3-wood to chip and pitch with. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? That's going against everything. He's like, well, one time I was real frustrated with my wedge, so I pulled out my 3-wood as a joke and I hit it and it went in. So I've been doing it ever since.
And I'm sure your follow-up question was, has it ever gone in again?
Yeah, exactly. Never has. Not once.
Never has.
He's like, I've gotten close. And I'm like, well, I guess that's what wedge play is. So like you said about, obsessive golfers, they're very superstitious when it comes to things like that too. So
I'm fascinated. Here you are. I'm assuming that your dad is either not involved or getting out of the business and you're taking over the family business here.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely involved. We
Yeah.
definitely, we communicate all the time, and, we definitely love to, we love to have that. I mean, we're a veteran owned and operated company too. Both of us are prior military members and everything. And we love,
Thank you.
oh, absolutely. It was
Thank
an
you
honor
your
for
service.
sure. And so, so we love to work. That's just part of our ethics. So yeah, it's a transition, but he's always going to be plugged in. That's how anybody is with something that they begin.
So he's handing the keys over to the kid. The kid's thinking, how do I make this business bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
The whole idea is, how do I grow the business? Well,
Mm-hmm.
that always comes with scalability, doesn't it? I mean, this is not a scalable process that you're doing. Obviously, if you're customizing for everyone and you can't have relationships with big box stores or any other kind of pro shops, you can say, send them to us, but you don't. I mean, it's like, how do you grow a business like that?
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. Scale is always a big question. And,
Sure.
over the years, we've grown into the scale. So if we definitely don't do anything, when it comes to completed club head design of mass production, we never will do that. We always want to make sure that our customers are getting the very best that they can, because we're a very customer focused business. We're not a product focused business. So we love the interaction with our customers. We're very open with them, about what we do and everything too, because that's what's important. We're not product focused. We never wanted to be. We've sponsored pros years ago, decided that's just not a good fit for us, because a pro is instinctually going to want something different, than what the public is going to play. And we see that today with all these golf manufacturers. They'll just have their name stamped on a set of clubs. And this person, that professional golfer is not playing anything near that. I mean, their set's about $15,000, custom for them. So just, a lot of problems. And it really kind of pushed us more into a product focused mindset when we were sponsoring pros, because they were telling us these things about what they wanted. But what, a pro golfer wants is not the best thing for someone that wants to go out and just shoot par one day, or shoot their age. It's just not the same. And if anybody played a professional golfer's clubs, I mean, no consistency whatsoever. They wouldn't be able to hit, probably 1 out of 10 shots. Yeah, it'd be terrifying. And that's just, that's really how it is for them. So as our scale grows, so do we. And we've known this for a number of years, that eventually this was going to happen, and not necessarily that a pro was going to in particular, but it just made so much sense, to really do it. And then, when Bryson came out, when Bryson DeChambeau came on tour, we were really one of the only manufacturers in the game with single length clubs and everything too.
So I want to talk more about Bryson, but let's take another break and then we'll do that when we come back.
Okay.
The biggest topic of conversation for 2020 on the PGA Tour seems to continue to be Bryson DeChambeau, and which Bryson's going to show up. It's like, is it, the one at the Masters who is kind of baffled and confused all day, or the one who just hits the ball so far that everyone's kind of jaws on the ground. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, this mad scientist of golf, Bryson DeChambeau, is the only player that I think is the only player on the tour playing single length irons. True?
That's true. Yeah. On that anybody would know their name of. Yes, it would be Bryson DeChambeau, and for obvious reasons, winning the Open and everything. And congratulations to him for everything that he's done too. It's really
congratulations and thank you.
Yeah. No, not necessarily. We've been independent of him because we've been doing.
But he's getting people to talk about the idea.
Sure. Yeah. And winning, everybody wants to, follow a winner and things like that. Absolutely. And, but we've been doing this. We've been solely focusing on single length clubs since he was in diapers, knowing that it was, knowing that it's a very common sense approach, to golf. And that's, what my father's ideals all along were. It's just common sense. It's like if clubs fit you and you can swing them the same and everything's identical, like it just makes, the number one thing that it does, it makes the game more fun. That's really what we're trying to do. We don't want to go out and have some, customer, okay, hey, you're going to be on the PGA Tour with these or nothing like that. We want you to have more fun. We want your buddies to be buying you lunch, or maybe a round of beers at the end or something like that. But more, but really having fun and watching your scores drop instead of constantly berating yourself, how I can get better. I need to go to the range more with all my clubs, and I need to, this is my year. I'm doing it this year. I'm going to show how good I can get. And then they take a winter off, and then they go back and they got to basically redo it again, Yeah. And so that's really the basis of it. But absolutely, it would, without question, the idea of, it's not as much of an uphill battle for us as it was in the past, because there is a pro out there that's winning, based on single length technology. Absolutely. But the great thing is, and we love his personality, we really do, because it seems like golfers' personalities, if you've noticed, remember like back in the day, it was like Chichi Rodriguez, and like Mo Norman, these very distinct personalities of guys, that you can really wrap around and just love, follow them and everything. It seems like Bryson, and there are a couple others that have that very distinct personality. And that's really what we love about him, are those kinds of things. It really helps bring the interest back into the game by having these distinct personalities instead of more of like kind of a vanilla, type of flavor for a lot of golfers. And that's what we loved about it, is that, that's how he is. But it is funny too, thinking about like the whole mad scientist, like you say, he's like, oh, and I got all these equations for my new driver and everything. And I'm going to it's like, but if you think about everything he's saying, us as well, if we get really nerd into the physics of, of golf club design, of our formula, of how we get to all these things, you step back and say, well, I mean, it makes sense having identical everything, same setup at address, your swing's the same, you have a 10-yard gap in between clubs, but all that, noise of equations and everything have to go into getting there, that you take a step back and say, it just makes sense. And that's what we love, is the simplicity of it, for clubs that fit, our customers. That's the biggest thing, is having a proper fit. So, when Cobra came out, all these companies started coming out of the woodworks, for offering single length clubs. And realistically, our customization still, sets us apart. We don't want to do mass production. We love, having, more, not like it's like a hands-on approach, with that much experience of club building. We love that. And our customers love it too. They can tell in the club design when they hit them. They know exactly where that's all going. So we don't want to get to big mass production manufacturing. It's just not really what we want to do, So we love.
Where are you guys based?
So we're based in Ohio. I'm currently in Ohio, and so that's where our manufacturing facility is. Our club builders didn't want to move, so we had a manufacturing facility there for them. Just to let them stay where they wanted. And so that's where we currently manufacture our clubs and everything is in Ohio. So
okay. So actually, I'm fascinated. How many different lines of clubs? Let's just talk about irons for now.
Sure.
Because I know that you have wedges and you have woods and drivers. Let's just talk about the irons. How many different product lines of irons do you have available to the public?
3. Yeah, we have 3 different iron lines.
And how long have you had 3 different iron lines?
We launched our Blackstone line recently, about a year and a half ago, is when we launched our Blackstones. That's our new latest and greatest. We had talked about with loft angles, being very inconsistent and things like that. We took the numbering completely off of the clubs, the 7, 8, 9, and we put the loft angle directly on there. And you would think that'd be kind of difficult to wrap your mind around. I was like, well, I understand like a 7 and an 8. And what our customers found is that it's so easy for them to transition to a loft angle, because with that set, we provide distance clips with those too. So like the 47 degree, okay, that's our kind of quote unquote pitching wedge. A pitching wedge loft varies 41 up to 51 degrees in the conventional world. Yeah, ours is 47. So if they know, it's really important to know the carry distance, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
When that ball's in the air and when it hits the ground, I mean, that point of contact, that's really what you want to know, because let's say the course is super dry. After that ball hits, it's going to roll a little extra, little further. If it's wet, then it's going to hit and typically stop, or hopefully not plug, but it won't roll as far. So the carry distance is really the ball in the air, and then when it comes down and hits the ground, that's really the distance that you want to know. And if it's dry, if it's nominal conditions, you know what kind of roll you're going to get afterwards. So let's say with the 47 degree, their carry distance is 100 yards, just for example. And we have this clip that has 100 on it, and they clip it right on the shaft, right above the club head. And then whenever they need their 100-yard club, their 100-yard carry club, they just look for that distance clip and pull the club out. So they don't have to memorize loft angle to distance. And then again, the great thing about having a 4-degree separation between our clubs for precise 10-yard gapping is that if the 47 degree is their 100-yard club, then the 43 degree is going to be their 110-yard club. So if you know the distance with one of our clubs, simply add or subtract 10 yards as you go up and down in loft, and just put these clips all the way on. So when you need your 160-yard club, look for that clip and pull the club out, and it stays on through shot impact and everything. So it's a great way to get rid of the old 7-iron, 8-iron, because if you line up every manufacturer's 7-iron, you're going to hit each one of them at different distances,
Sure.
And so we've never liked that, because it's like, okay, well, now we're part of that game, where we have a 7-iron and now it's a different distance. Sometimes it's further than a customer's old set. Sometimes it's less. So we instead just did the loft angles directly. And by doing that, it already removes one ingrained bad habit, is that, the mind tells the body, you need to swing this club with a number 4 on it faster than this club with a number 8 on it. No, with our clubs, that's not the case. It's exactly the same. So if you remove that simple numbering of a 7, 8, 9, which don't really mean anything anyway, it's an arbitrary designation is really what it is. Once you remove that, then it helps quicken the acclimation period, because the golfer knows, I hit this club exactly like this club. There's no 4 on it. There's no 5 on it, so that mind doesn't go in there. Like, okay, I really got to muscle this with my 4-iron here. They don't do that. So definitely our most popular set are Blackstones for that reason. Obviously, how we designed them too. The club head itself has a physical vapor deposition that we bond to the stainless steel underneath. So it really helps with ball compression. And something we did too, all the grooves, the scoring lines or the grooves, even the 2 perpendicular, we paint filled those white. And we did that because it's the best visual alignment aid at address that we've ever found. How many times have golfers had a 9-iron shot to the green and they hit it solid, they got their distance, but it was 5 feet to the left of the green or 5 feet to the right. And they were just off alignment by about a degree, maybe a degree and a half. But back that up with a 5-iron in their hand, it's going to be off 5 to 10 yards. So we paint filled those so that having that basically a box of scoring lines next to that golf ball, they know exactly where that golf ball's going, So it's one of the things that we really wanted to aid golfers with accuracy. I always have, problems like, man, I can hit these irons, I just don't know where they're going, So we built that alignment aid right into the golf club as well. So,
yeah.
So
well, I mentioned earlier that on Golf Smarter Mulligans, episode 76 was our original conversation with your dad, David Lake, talking about 1-iron golf. But right now, let's take a break and let me throw it over to Fred to tell you what's on Golf Smarter Mulligans this week.
So this conversation about single-length irons is more prominent today than any other time in golf history. But it's not a new conversation. Hey, we started the discussion in 2009 with David Lake that was republished in episode 76 of Golf Smarter Mulligans. And that's what I like about our other podcasts from the archives of Golf Smarter, is that in golf, like history, everything seems to repeat itself or is relevant much longer than this week's tour stop. So this week, an episode that was only available to our paid for members-only listeners, we finally make public part 2 with Jesse Ortiz. We opened this episode to questions from listeners, and sure enough, we got the opinion about single-length clubs from a legendary club designer.
What do you really think of single-length golf irons?
The 2 things that determine distance are loft of the head and the length.
Does the length really dictate as much as the loft?
They are about equal.
Really?
That's
Okay.
why if you look at your irons, they're all in half-inch increments.
Right.
That way they give you about 15 yards difference. Because if you had a 5 and a 6 iron and they were both the same length, there would probably be about 7 yards difference between the two of them. Now, if you take the 6 iron and you cut it half an inch shorter, your arc is shorter. So that reduces the distance. Now you're 15 yards difference between a 5 iron and a 6 iron. I would say for golfers with slower swing speeds, they really don't get a true 12 or 15 yard gap between each iron. A concept like that might have some merit for some golfers, and they could control the ball better.
That's episode 85 of Golf Smarter Mulligans, featuring part 2 with Jesse Ortiz, who at the time was with Bobby Jones Golf, and it's being released this Friday. Both Golf Smarter and Golf Smarter Mulligans are free and available wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Please subscribe, and when you do, you'll be notified immediately when a brand new episode of either has downloaded to your favorite podcast app.
Well, I'm really glad that you mentioned that you have these tags, but it seems, because I was thinking about how many times do people go, oh, I pulled out the wrong club, right? And then you tell me now, because of the length, usually it's like, wait a minute, this isn't a 9 iron. I know this is a 6, right? It's like, this doesn't make sense, right? So now you're just looking at numbers like, which number is which? I can't remember what, unless you have a bag that you can have slots for each one and you'll know where they go, but that never works either.
Right.
But you still need a little guide, right? You guys still provide some sort of guide that says, yeah, this is really your 7 iron. Right?
No, not at all. Yeah.
Tags.
Yeah. We want to completely remove that. Cause like we said, as like a competitive thing that, the golf industry does, they strengthen loft angles on a 5 iron. And it's really to give the illusion that they're hitting this 5 iron further just by strengthening the loft angle.
Sure.
And, so what does that 5 really mean? What does it mean? It only means what it means to the individual that's hitting it. So they, just like with any new set of clubs, golfers have to go out, they have to figure out what their distances are with their 7 iron, with their 6 iron. And obviously a lot of them are really happy. Hey, I just gained 6 more yards with my 7 iron. This is great, and it's like, well, you didn't do anything. They just strengthened the loft angle. They basically made it a 5 iron, So kind of going away from that. And, our other 2 lines of clubs that we have too have the traditional club numberings on them. But a lot of our customers, they know that we have, and they're called distance clips. That's what we put. Those are the clips that you put on the clubs, and they're in increments of 10. And even with our pro lines and our 1 iron line, they were like, can I still get those? Or some golfers that don't even that aren't even customers, they see these distance clips, they're like, where can I get these? Can I get these and put these on my clubs? Because the distance is really what's important, not a number, not a 5 or a 4 or anything like that. So that certainly helps with the transition from loft angle, which is, again, one of the key metrics to distance is the loft angle. And that's what we help them with. But realistically, after I'd say about 3 or 4 rounds, they already know what their club is.
Sure.
Just like with the numbers. So yeah, a lot of them don't even really look at those numbers, but very convenient to have it if you're like, oh gosh, I forgot, what's my 31 degree? Is that my here? Oh yeah, here we go.
Great. So you mentioned the Blackstones, but you said you had 3 lines, and the other 2 lines are?
Our 1 iron line and our pro line. So
okay, and 1 iron line, that sounds like a Johnny Cash song. 1 iron line. No. Okay, so what's the difference between the 3 sets? The same length, they get the same lies, right?
Yeah.
So what's the difference?
Yeah, how we manufacture the club heads and the shafting is different. So really with our 1 iron line, they have a lot of golfers really like to have mass behind the club head. And a lot of golfers too say they can't hit their 3 and 4 and even their 5 iron in a lot of instances because the club head's too light. It's like they feel like they're hitting rocks, whenever they're out there. It's like, man, this club has just gotten so light. It's like it hurts like when I hit. Like I feel like, it just doesn't feel right. So with our 1 iron line, what we did, we added a little bit extra mass to the cavity of that club head. And so it's about the swing weight of about a conventional 8 iron is really what it is. And golfers love to have that kind of mass. As you progress through the lines from the 1-iron, Pro Line, and the Blackstones, you have an upgraded club head and an upgraded shafting too. So with all three of our lines, we spine line and pure each of the golf shafts. A lot of golfers aren't familiar with that process, but that's something that we preserved with all three lines because we built them by hand. And very quickly, what that process is that every golf shaft has a spine. You can manufacture two golf shafts identical to each other, and the spine will be different, on both those shafts. So what we do is they take special equipment and a skilled hand to find the spine of a golf shaft, but we find it and we properly orient it to the club face. And a number of great things happen by doing that. Impact shock is one of them. How many times, you hit the ground, you just bury that club head into the ground, you feel it all the way to your elbows, like you're reverberating all the way through your arms. The spine properly absorbs that impact shock. So that's one of the things that we do it, but also if the golf shaft is not oriented properly if the spine is not properly oriented to the club face, then it'll wobble in its backswing as it tries to oscillate to that spine. So spine lining and puring, and then you can YouTube it and see what it looks like. Spine line and pured versus non-spine line golf shaft, and you can see it. So the shot pattern, its dispersion is a much wider shot pattern than if it's properly spine line and pured. Because our biggest thing is that we want every shot to be identical to each other. So that's one of the processes that we do on all of our golf shafts. We even do it with graphite shafts too, with our driver, even though the spine of a graphite shaft isn't as pronounced as it is with an iron shaft. But we do that because we want to make sure that there's just no difference between the shots whatsoever. And, some golfers say, well, that's great. If you're a really good golfer, you're going to notice those kinds of things. But that doesn't matter to us. We want the worst golfer in the world to play with the best equipment that a really great golfer is going to. So that's one of the processes that we perform since we custom build, the orders by hand. So the 1-iron line is it does have a little bit more mass behind the club head because that's what some golfers want. They want to hit that golf ball and boom, it just hits. Having that, we also install oversized grips on our clubs too. And that certainly aids in impact shock as well. And one of the things that we've noticed is that golfers get older, they tend to not want to hit the ground anymore. It hurts, Yep. So they tend to go to like a hybrid style where it's more sweeping the ball, and things like that. But any club designed to hit and pinch the ground, it really makes it much more accurate. And that's why iron play is very accurate, hits the ground. Even if it doesn't take up a big divot, when it hits the ground, it tends to square away that club face, to promote that accuracy, where hybrids are designed to kind of sweep, the ball off, kind of like a driver. A driver club head is not designed to come in contact with the ground. Typically when it does, an expletive follows by a really bad second shot, right? So our Pro lines we designed for distance. So it requires different tip prep at the shaft, different shafting model for that. It's lighter in club head weight, for more increased swing speed as well. And so that's our kind of our middle line is our Pro line irons. And that's really what they're designed for. We wanted to help with capitalize on distance. So with those, we wanted to have a driving iron, like a true driving iron, about that of a conventional 3-wood. And a 3-wood's about anywhere from like about 15 to 17 degrees of loft. So with the Pro lines, the 3-iron is a 17 degree. There are a lot of golfers that say, if I pull a wood out, I'm shooting a 90 today. If I keep my woods in my bag, I'm shooting a 70 today. So they really want to have that, that iron that can really get them out there, really get them out there in the center too, in terms of accuracy with it. So we developed those and we followed the same 4-degree loft angle progression of, 17. And then the next one, the 4-iron, will be 4 degrees different. So that one is stronger in loft than the other two clubs, not because of the manufacturers and how they strengthen clubs with that appearance or anything, but that's really what we wanted. We wanted to have a driving iron that was the equivalent to about a 3-wood. And so that loft angle progression is 4 degrees all the way through, just like the 1-irons, just like the Blackstones. So the only difference is that 4-degree separation on there.
So then if the Blackstone you mentioned is just about a year and a half old, as far as what you're offering, what are the unique challenges for your designers? I mean, they're kind of, now I don't want to say boxed in, because every golf club designer is boxed in because there's regulations and rules that you have to be within, right? Parameters.
Absolutely.
But if you guys are saying, yeah, we're going to do it this way, and that's it, what are the unique challenges for your designers, and what's next?
That's the great thing. Yeah, and that's what's exciting, is what is coming next, right? We're not a company that just rests on the laurels and say, no, we've already come out with it. It's perfect. Let's just, let's just stick with what we got, right? There are a lot of different advances in driver technology, fairway wood design, and even a putter, and our putter is our next one. It's a single length putter design that we're coming out with. It'll be available around Thanksgiving or so, and that's
2020.
This year, yes, sir.
Yes. Okay.
We've been in design with that for 3 years, and the putter is a very difficult club to really get down, because it's just, there's no one right way to putt. And I've seen golfers do all kinds of goofy things when they're putting. Like, again, I did it this one time and it worked, so I'm going to keep doing it. And but what we found is that the putter length too, is another element, of that equation. Most putters are about 35 inch, around there. But we feel that with our putter design, how it's weighted, you always hear about face balancing, right? Face balanced putter. Well, that's fantastic. I mean, you have to face balance putter, okay? I mean, you can't, no, this one's non-face balanced. It's great. I tried, I promise. Nothing like that. So we definitely face balance the putter, but we shaft balanced it and grip balanced it too. So it's a heavier club total. But one of the great things about that kind of balance and its weight to it is that it won't wobble in the backswing. Even just a little putter backstroke, if that putter head is really, really light, and we tested so many different designs, so many different weights and everything, is that'll move in the back. It'll go up and down. So we say, I pushed it or I pulled it, and certainly you can do that too. But if the weight is there and it's a significant amount of weight, it's not going to move or deviate as much from the path that, the practice swing. And that's really what we wanted. But, with the length too, we're looking at, golfers of all sizes, because the height of the golfer doesn't really matter too much. Some guys have longer necks and bigger heads than other guys, and that doesn't do anything for a golf swing. Certainly tip to tip wingspan of, fingertip to fingertip, that doesn't always equal a golfer's height either, so we get all kinds of different questions about that. Well, I'm really tall, I'm 6'8", but I have these short little T-Rex arms, like what does that mean for me? And it's like your wrist to floor measurement is still perfect, because that's how you're going to swing a golf club. We have some golfers that are, 5'4", and they're like, gosh, my arms reach down below my knees. It's like, okay, that's perfect. It's still your arm length plus the length of the club to the ground that fits you into that position to get to solid contact. And with putters, it's the same, and a lot of periphery, but there's so many different ways of doing it. So it's not like we have this really long putter or anything like that, but we want to make sure that the golfer can at least be in a position where they feel comfortable, instead of just buying a club off a rack that's this one length and you just have to get used to it. It's like, no, if you feel more comfortable standing more upright, stand more upright. If you don't want to use your periphery as much. Yeah. So that's something that we're coming out with too. Very excited about it. That's one thing that we love is, not like just keeping up with the times, but what else is next? What else is brand new? And for the designers, that's what their charge is. That's what their challenge is to find it, not just come out with something and say all this technology and laser pointing and all this. Does it actually benefit the golfer? And if it doesn't, we don't come out with it, is really what it comes down to. That's one of the benefits of being a customer focused business, is we're not just going to throw something out there that doesn't help,
Awesome. We haven't even talked about the rescue, the hybrid clubs, the fairway metals and your drivers. So we are going to have you come back, because there's many more questions that have to be answered. I just find this clearly ever since my first conversation with David was like, this sounds really fascinating to me. I've always been so intrigued by this, but I want to make sure that and thank you very much for your generosity, that the audience is well aware that if you go to One Iron Golf, and it's the number one, IRON GOLF, oneirongolf.com, and you look over what they have, and you're interested in getting some clubs, Matt has been very generous and offered the Golf Smarter community 10% discount on your purchase, and with the checkout code Golf Smarter, one word, Golf Smarter. You've heard that before. So, Matt, thank you very much for that. That was really, really kind. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, Fred. And, it's an honor for us to be on your show, and thank you for considering us again after all these years so we could talk again about new things that have come out. And obviously the golf world has changed in so many regards. So we really appreciate it, Fred.
Did you get a chance to watch The Match 3 over Thanksgiving? It was pretty entertaining. Kinda. I think the big takeaway is that putting a really good amateur golfer like Steph Curry, who's a +1, up against one of the greatest golfers in history, Phil Mickelson, proves that there's still a pretty huge gap between talent from an amateur and a pro. Plus, Steph was playing more like one of us than he did when he competed on the minor league golf tour a couple of times. But that was just for publicity's sake, probably. But he's an excellent golfer, no question. But of course, the best part of the match was watching Phil do what we love on Golf Smarter, and that's give mental game and strategic advice. Did you notice that Phil kept saying to Charles Barkley, remember the two things we've been working on. Just focus only on those two things. Just focus on those two things only. Pretty good advice for all of us, isn't it? Well, now that we're officially in December, next week we'll highlight two conversations that focus on our golf lifestyle. On Golf Smarter, we'll meet the producer of a new golf documentary called Muni. And on Mulligans, we'll get a chance to hear once again from NBC and Golf Channel sportscaster Jimmy Roberts on the book that he wrote called Breaking the Slump, How Great Players Survived Their Darkest Moments in Golf and What You Can Learn from Them. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions on what you'd like to hear on an upcoming interview, I'd love to hear from you. Just click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com.